I know how both my wife Marcel and I felt looking at those pictures, knowing we'd never see another. And there's so many stories about her, and some of them are being recounted now in the hundreds of press articles that have appeared in just the past 48 hours. One story I remember the day after Marla arrived in Washington, Kabul. She had heard there was a hearing in the Senate where Secretary Rumsfeld and General Franks were going to testify. Now, thinking perhaps a bit naively that they might talk about the problem of civilian casualties, she decided to go to hear what they'd say. After the hearing was over, obviously disappointed that the issue she cared so deeply about hadn't even been mentioned, Marla walked straight up to Secretary Rumsfeld at the witness table, started talking to him. He heads down the hallway. She heads down the hallway with him. I can imagine what the security people felt. Followed him right outside to his car. And she did not stop talking to him about the families of civilians she had met who had been killed or injured and the need to do something to help them. Now, anybody who knew Marla can see that. Secretary of Defense, heck, Secretary of State, United States Senator, doesn't make any difference. She has a story to tell. And by golly, you're going to hear that story. You're going to hear that story. You can run down the hall, you can go up the elevator, you can go out to the car. You're going to hear the story. She was not someone who was easy to say no to. Not easy. Heck, it was almost impossible to say no to her. And that was not simply because she was insistent. We all have insistent people who come to our offices. And we've all developed ways to say no. But in her case, she was not just insistent, she was credible. She had been there. She knew what the war was about. She'd seen the tragic results. And she was not about blaming anyone. She wasn't there to protest others, to blame others. She just said, look, there are people that need help. I want to help, whatever way I can. That's what made it different. She saw her work as part of the best of what this country is about. It was the face of a compassionate America that she believed in. She wanted the people of Afghanistan and Iraq to see the face of America she believed in, this compassionate, humanitarian face. Now, it took time for some of us to realize she wasn't just a blonde bundle of energy and charisma, which she was, but she was also a person of great intellect and courage who realized that if she wanted to help war victims, it wasn't enough to protest. That you can do easily. She needed to work with people who could help her do it. And of course, that meant the Congress, the U.S. military, the U.S. Embassy, the press, and everybody else involved. She understood that. So she put aside politics and focused on the victims. But she made sure the Congress, the U.S. military, the U.S. Embassy, the press, and everybody else heard from her. But it didn't take long before the U.S. military saw the importance of what she was doing, and they started to help her. There were several civil affairs officers with whom Marla worked like a team. She'd find the cases. They had arranged for the plane to airlift a wounded child to a hospital or some other type of assistance. She became one of our most beloved ambassadors because she was doing what our ambassadors want to do, put the good face, the humanitarian face, the loving and caring face of America, first and foremost. And I think one of the reasons so many people around the world feel Marla's loss so deeply is because we saw how important her work was, and it meant taking risks the rest of us are unwilling to take. In a way, she was not only helping the families of Iraqi war victims, she was also helping us until she finally became an innocent victim of war herself. Yesterday, my phone rang so many times, people calling from Baghdad, calling me at home. Every one of them had a different story of something she had done, something where she had made somebody's life different, where she had helped them. Now, she's been called many things: an angel of mercy, a ray of sunshine in an often dangerous and dark world. One person who knew her well described Marla as being as close to a living saint as they come. I suspect that's how many of us feel. All of us feel. She probably didn't feel that way herself. But many of us feel that way. I don't think I've ever met, I probably will never meet again, someone so young who gave so much of herself to so many people and who made such a difference doing it. Our hearts go out to her parents, Cliff and Nancy. I talked to her father yesterday. I said, think how much she did in her short lifetime, more than most of us will get to do in a lifetime. I thank them for having the courage to let her be the person she wanted to be. Not that I suspect anybody could stop her from being what she wanted to be. One of the articles talks about her going to a checkpoint, and the guard stopping there and didn't have the proper papers, and she stuck her head forward and pulled back the scarf. They saw the blonde hair, and she started talking to them, talking about why we got to go here, why we got to go here. Next thing you know, she's being sent on her way. So our job is really to carry on the work that Marla started. Not just in memory of a wonderful and heroic young woman, although that should be enough reason, but because the work's so important. That's what I'm committed to. I know I'll work with my friend from California to honor Marla in that way. But I think it'd be safe to say to my friend from California, I suspect there'll be a lot of others in this chamber who do the same. Mr. President, I yield to the senator from California.